Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I have an awesome guest with us today. This is the Murph. I met this guy working out at the gym and he is an absolute legend. This guy lives for being an absolute includer with everybody in this world. His mission, he wants to make sure that everybody has somewhere they can turn to where they can find support, where they can find some sort of guidance to know that, you can do it in this life. So get ready to follow him on social media. You'll find all his links below. But I want to introduce the Murph.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mikey. Super excited to be here, honestly. I know it was about 7 months ago when I first met you, and you're like, yeah, we should do a podcast together. Just sitting in the sauna, talking to each other, and I was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And then it was like a week ago where I was like, when are we going to do that podcast? And lo and behold, here we are.
It came up at the perfect time, guys.
It really did. Yeah, it really did. I work for a dude named Chris Crone. I'm sure a lot of people actually know who he is, but I help do event registration and get things set up on that front. Just being able to bring a ton of people to Provo and just have the experience of what it is that Chris has to offer, and that's just transforming people's lives and giving them the tools and resources to ultimately be able to do more with what they've been given in life.
I love it. Guys, seriously, Chris Crone's like the coolest guy. He's going to be a billionaire. 12 months, he'll be there.
Yeah.
He's right there.
Give or take.
The fact that Murph is hanging around him is like, he's putting himself in the right spot, first off. But two, I think it's big that it's like, I think Chris had a big personal impact on your life.
Yeah.
You want to tell me about that?
Yeah, so, even just thinking about it is kind of mind-boggling.
Maybe start us off at the beginning.
So,
help us understand where you're coming from. This is gonna be big. I can feel it.
Yeah. So I moved out here from New Mexico about 2.5-3 years ago.
That's where you grew up.
Yep.
Okay.
When I moved out here, I was on unemployment because I was tired of working at a car dealership, and then the pandemic hit, so they kind of just let everyone go. And when I was going to my next job, I didn't want to just do something just to say that I was going to do it. And I was like, you know what? This is my opportunity to really take a step back, figure out what I'm truly passionate about. And one of the stipulations on being on unemployment is you had to apply to 2 jobs every week to kind of still get the unemployment checks. And lo and behold, I was out here for probably a year and ended up seeing coaching of sales coach. And I was like, can make 6 figures. Why not? Let's see what this thing is all about. Cool. Had my first interview, and she was like, so what do you know about Chris Crone? And I was like, Chris, who? What? And then I was like, honestly, I don't know anything about this guy. And she was like, all right, cool. Well, let's get into the interview and see what this is all about. And she asked me a series of questions. And then at the end, she was like, okay, well, I feel like you would be a good fit culturally. So we're going to get you set up with our second interview with the CEO of our company. And I was like, maybe I should actually look into these people and see what they're all about. So I looked into them, had the interview with the CEO, and then they offered me the position. And I was like, this is going to be exactly where I needed to be. And I was on the sales floor for about 2 months. Didn't really have any huge successes necessarily. And it was right before Christmas 21, and they came to me and asked me if I wanted to join the event registration team. And at the time, it seemed like a major downgrade in what I was currently doing because there wasn't huge upside potential. And I was like, you know what? This is one of the moments that is gonna be a deciding factor in the impact that I have in my life. And I was like, that I just need to take a huge leap of faith and just do it. So I did it, and now I have 6 people underneath me when it was just myself at the beginning. And we went from having 200 people at the events to averaging, anywhere from 500 to 600 people 3 to 4 times a year.
Crazy.
Just constantly having transformation and being able to be in that close proximity with Chris. I know that I'm in the right spot because 3 years ago when I first went to 10X, I saw a guy on stage and I was like, I want to be just like that guy someday. Well, fast forward to when I was working, getting things set up for one of Chris's events. I messaged about 100 people and I was getting messages coming back in, and I looked at this name, and it was Russ Yeager, and I was like, why does that name look so familiar?
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, I gotta figure out, where do I know that name from? So I go on Facebook, and I was like, there's no way this is the same guy.
Right.
And so I call him, and I was like, okay, before we go anywhere, Russ, I need to ask you, like, do you follow Grant Cardone and all? And he was like, oh yeah, I actually was the inaugural 10X Stages winner. I was on stage at his 10X Growth Conference in 2020, and I was like, dude, you are the reason why I'm in the position I'm in, because when I left that event, I was like, I need to be doing something in that realm, making a difference in people's lives.
Right.
And so just having it all come full circle, even though it wasn't instantaneous, it happened.
Right.
When I was at the 10X Growth Conference 3 weeks ago or something like that, Robert Herjavec was on stage, and he was like, the thing that most people don't realize when it comes to the ultimate successes is they don't see all of the little dots that you planted over the decades of working your butt off.
Right.
And finally being able to look back and seeing those little dots connected. I'm seeing why I've gone through some of the trials and tribulations that I have and how they've led me to this point.
Crazy. What was it that Russ did that made you want to be like him so much?
Just kind of hearing his story. Whenever he was on stage, he had this presence about him, and I was like, at the time, I felt like I didn't have a voice necessarily. Like I was in sales, but I wasn't in sales. I didn't know how to have the proper tonality. I didn't know how to fluctuate my emotions to actually get people to feel where I was coming from. And he very much so did that.
Seemed like a master.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knew exactly what he was doing. He started at his low point, brought you back up to his successes, brought you back down, just to bring it back up to the peak and make you feel like you went through the entire journey with him.
That is so cool. Well, and guys, think about your story. I mean, honestly, there's so many people that they go through their story, and I've run into this, I mean, a ton, where it's like, you start to be like, I'm putting in all this effort, I'm sowing all these seeds. You know, you start to see other people and you're like, they're not doing what I'm doing. Like, why are they getting ahead of me or something like that? Or maybe they're having a success that I'm not having that I particularly want.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting there going, why? Well, it's because you're going to become a master like Russ.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it takes time. And the thing is, I think Russ probably, because of his ups and downs, like, he's able to captivate and change lives.
Yeah.
Crazy.
100%. It is mind-boggling. And on that notion,
yeah,
I think it is super easy to be able to compare yourself to other people and be like, I'm not as good as this individual. I'm never going to be to their level. But at the end of the day, like, our gift is our gift.
Right.
And we were made the way that we were made, so that way we don't necessarily have the capability of doing it the same way that other individuals do.
Right.
But we have the skill and gift to be able to put our own touch on it.
Cool. Well, and that's the thing I keep really, I went and saw Ed Milet, thought he was so amazing. Guys, I followed Ed forever, but I just never saw him in person until recently.
Yeah.
I saw him, and he basically pointed out that he was like, hey, look, the challenge that you're going through is what qualifies you. It is your power. It is your, resource that you can draw on to really actually help and change and make a difference. And I think a lot of people don't look at it that way. But it's like, you look at Ed's story, and he goes from being a kid where he has his dad coming home drunk every night. He got to where he could notice, like, just by the way the doorknob would wiggle, if his dad was drunk or not, if he had to get his mom and his sister out of there. And it's like, that's rough. But, like, he learned these skills that it's like, he got to the point where he was so sensitive that he can really actually notice with people the different tones in their voice, the different things that they're not actually telling him that he can totally tell are there. Mm-hmm. And it's like, same thing with Russ, going up and down. And it's like, sounds like with you. I mean, you've had your difficulties, tons of different things, and you just want to help connect with people, help them move.
Yeah, and one of the things that has really, leading up to this, talking about it, having all these different seeds and ideas going through my head.
Yeah.
One of the things that really just kept coming up again and again and again that was weighing heavy on my heart is I was listening to someone and they were talking about some of the things that they had been through in life. And then someone brought up the analogy of the cows and the buffaloes. Have you heard this analogy?
I love this, but I don't know if the audience probably hasn't.
So pretty much the premise of it is you have the decision to be like the buffalo, or you have the decision to be like the cow. And pretty much anytime there is a thunderstorm or a big storm coming, they both have the ability to be able to sense that that is about to happen. And pretty much the cows will try and outrun the storm and get ahead of it.
Which is what we do in our lives.
Yeah, and we know that that is an impossibility. Where the buffalo kind of differ is they sense the storm is coming and they run headfirst into it.
Yeah.
And I think that is a great analogy when it comes to any of our issues that we are trying to deal with. Majority of the time in our life, we are trying to run as far away from our issues as humanly possible. And in the grand scheme of things, that is actually keeping us in the storm 10 times longer than if we would just stop and deal with it.
And so the cows get stuck in the storm forever.
Yeah.
The buffalo get through it super quick because they just head into it.
Yeah.
They get through it, it moves on, and they're past it.
Yep. Instead of trying to run away as fast as they can and getting stuck in it for possibly the rest of their life.
Right.
They just attack it head on, deal with the emotions, and then they're able to move on to the next phase of life.
So, according to you, why do people choose the cow path? Why do they run away from the storm?
It seems most logical.
Yeah.
I know myself
Away from
personally.
pain.
Yeah. It seemed, going through the things that I went through during my childhood, it seemed a lot easier to just ignore those situations. Like if I was to completely ignore everything that I went through, all the heartache, the trauma, if I was just to bury it deep inside, then it was just going to go away. And I wasn't going to ever have to acknowledge it, ever worry about it again. But being in Chris's airspace has made me realize that is quite the opposite, actually, because then it just seeps into your subconscious brain, and it doesn't matter if you think about it or not, but it becomes a part of who you are. And then it directs all of your future decisions because subconsciously your brain is like, this gives me a little hint of something that I've experienced before, and I don't like that.
Right.
So then, one, it's going to keep you from having an amazing experience because it gives you a little hint of something that could be traumatic for you. Or you dive in, and then halfway through the experience, your brain's like, oh, yep, this is taking me down another path that we don't want to go down. So then you start self-sabotaging and keeping yourself from being able to actually have the amazing experience that it was meant to be.
Right. That's crazy. Okay, so what about the buffalo? How do people turn from a cow into a buffalo and actually deal with their problems and take it head on?
So I've thought a lot about this also, and one of the books that I've listened to that has kind of helped me have a better understanding of this is The Untethered Soul.
Nice.
And pretty much the example that they use is when you're driving down the street, right? You see tree after tree after tree, but you don't actually acknowledge the trees because there's thousands of them.
Right.
You're like, okay, there's trees, you just keep going. And in day-to-day life, there's a lot of situations and moments where you have emotions that come up and you don't necessarily acknowledge them because they're like the trees. They just keep coming and going.
Right.
And one of the things that it talks about is there's a gentleman who sees a blue Ford Mustang, and no big deal. It's just another car that he's seen hundreds of times. Well, he looks into the blue Mustang and he sees his ex-girlfriend. And then in the passenger seat, he sees another guy lean in to give his ex-girlfriend a hug. And so then it creates that angst and just unease inside of him, but he's like, okay, no big deal. I'm just gonna keep going, pretend it's the tree, and keep moving on. Well, 5 years down the road, he's married, has kids, family, he's happy himself, and he's driving down the road with his family in his car, and he sees another blue Mustang, and he sees two people in there, and for whatever reason, he starts feeling that angst and uncomfortableness.
Right.
And he's like, why? My life is great. I have a wife that I love dearly. I have a fantastic family. My life is great. Why am I feeling like this? And it's because he never took the time to fully process the emotion, sit in the feeling, and let it move entirely through his body.
I think a lot of people have actually never even really purposefully done that ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've never once thought, yeah, I'm going to go and feel this emotion that is very uncomfortable and actually process it and then let it go, move on, maybe learn from it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the most mind-boggling things. Like if you don't actually take the time to let your body digest any of the emotions that you're feeling, it just gets stuck and it has nowhere to go. And then you come across a situation that's similar to it, and then you have those feelings resurface and you're like, where is this coming from?
So for people to become the buffalo, they need to learn to digest their feelings.
I would think that would be one of the steps, yes.
Cool.
I think there's a slew of different things that you can definitely do, but that would be the first recommendation. I think being able to just sit there and kind of acknowledge it for what it is going to allow you to have more opportunity to then move through the eye of the storm quicker, if you will.
Right. Well, and guys, I think for me personally, for my experience with a lot of this stuff is like, especially whenever it's a memory from the past that's attached to some sort of emotion, to digest it, I have to kind of you have to step back a little bit because you have to recognize that emotion was with a different you. It was with a you from the past. So take a step back, recognize who you were at that time, what mattered to you, what was actually your purpose in life. How's that changed? Because the thing is, you might still get that strike of emotion and it's just your body saying, hey, we've got something here that you never really dealt with, which I will point out, in my own personal opinion, I think we're here to grow. We're here on a progress mission. We're here to become more than we are. We're here to grow and learn. If you guys still are dealing with something where it's an emotion that hasn't moved on from you, I would suggest on a very basic level that that's a lesson that you're just refusing to learn. Mm-hmm. And life's going to keep bringing it up until you learn it. But as soon as you learn it, there is no, if you guys believe in God, if you believe in just whatever, the point is that it's like a lesson learned that has no need to be repeated. It doesn't make sense that you would ever have a lesson that you'd actually fully learned that you'd repeat. Because the thing is, if I actually understand the truth of something, why would I let it bother me? It wouldn't. It's kind of like once you actually learn who you are and what you're doing in this life, it's like it creates so much clarity that it's actually a lot easier to deal with your problems. But if you don't actually go through and identify, why did that bother me? What was the feeling behind that? Mm-hmm. And go a level deeper. A lot of you look at not just the external problem, but some of you are smart enough that you go to the internal problem. Was it really that, his girlfriend was, in the other car? Or was it that he felt maybe a lack of love in his life? Or maybe a lack of acceptance? Or something where it was a lack of feeling like he was enough? I don't know. But that's the thing is you got to get to know yourself, check it out. If you want to go as deep as even finding the philosophical, problem with it that you need to solve, it's go learn. And that's kind of where I end up. You read this great book and it's it gave you great insight, probably helps you move, your emotions through better.
It really does. Yeah. Kind of just thinking about high school and kind of what you were talking about and truly knowing who you are and what your purpose is in life. I remember in high school, I was a super shy kid, and I just remember wanting to love everyone basically and be like, you're amazing, you're amazing, you're amazing. And it was my senior year of high school. I had this girlfriend. She ended up breaking up with me and started dating this guy who was on my baseball team. And one of my best friends was like, oh, you're gonna let that dude date your ex-girlfriend? And I was like, yeah, what else am I gonna do?
Not really my choice.
Oh no, you're gonna go rough him up a little bit. Go push him against a wall and call him some names. And I was like, yeah, I don't really like that. That doesn't sound like something that I would enjoy doing.
Right.
And he was like, no, you're gonna do it, and you're gonna like it. And so I was like, all right. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna do it. And I remember I saw him going into the gym, and so I started walking in after him, and I grabbed him by the shirt and I put him up against the wall, and I was like, yeah, you like this? Because if you do, I'm going to make sure that it's even worse than this. And I didn't know what I was doing, so I kind of just, threw it out to the window. And then after that, the best friend who told me to do that, he was like, "You're just too nice. You're too nice." And that really stuck in me for a long time. And I was like, is that true? Like, am I too nice? So then I started trying to change my perspective of the world and started trying to be like a jerk to everyone. And I was like, that's probably why girls don't like me, because I'm too nice. It's why I don't have the relationships with not only girls but with friends. That's why I'm not confident in myself, because I'm too nice. And then fast forward like 10 years, went to college, moved back, and I ended up talking to this girl that I actually went to high school with, who I had a huge crush on in high school. And I was talking to her and I was like, yeah, in high school there was no chance that I was ever gonna actually talk to you. And she's like, why? And I was like, because I was a loser. Like, I was too nice to people. I didn't have the skills that I felt I needed to be able to actually be appealing to you.
Right.
And she was like, you hung out with the wrong people. I was like, what do you mean by that? And she was like, what your friends told you was not everyone else's perspective of you. Like, It's crazy to think how much power a few people's words have on our own perspective of ourselves.
Yeah. Crazy. So everybody else saw you in a different light than maybe your friends saw you.
Yeah.
But your friends obviously have that impact on you.
Yeah.
Shapes your destiny.
It really does.
Crazy.
And it's, when I was talking with Chris during my breakthrough, I made the comment that I wish that I hadn't gone through the things that I did, and he was like, well, I'm a big believer in everyone goes through what they go through because your mess then becomes your story.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I was meant to go through the trials and tribulations that I did during my childhood, so then that way I can be a point of service to other people.
Right.
Without trials and just heartache as a whole, you're not able to fully reach your full potential and be able to do what it is that you're called and destined to do on this planet.
Right. So you went through some stuff. You made the decision that you were going to be more tough. You weren't going to be this nice guy. And over years, that turned you, onto different paths. And now you've been led to this point where it seems like all you really want to do is just make sure everybody knows that they can be included.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you guys, I don't know if I mentioned this, Murph's got a book coming. So
I do.
Let's work that in. I want to hear about that.
Yes. So I've been working on it for pretty much the past 2 years now. When I first moved out here, I was in a little bit of a depressed state. I was like, you know what, let's just word vomit my entire life onto a book. And the last probably 4 or 5 months, I've just been stuck. But the more that I get through those moments of being stuck, I realize that it's not because a lack of motivation or desire to finish the book. It's because I haven't gone through the moments or had the realizations that I ultimately need to have the book be complete. And so probably about half to 3/4 of the way through the book, it's going to be on all the topics from my early childhood, moving around all over the place, step parents, step siblings, life, death, addiction, depression.
Stuff that a lot of people deal with.
Yeah.
And you just want to connect with them?
Yeah. I pretty much want to let almost anyone in the world know that because they're going through some issues, they don't have to feel like they're alone. I know that a lot of my childhood, I felt like I was alone in every aspect.
Yeah.
Even though I had my dad, my stepmom, my step siblings, my parents, my mom, my grandparents, my entire family, and I just felt like deep down I had no one who felt the way that I felt.
Right.
And that's really the reason for writing this book, because even if I can just make a difference in one person's life and let them know that they're not alone and give them the strength to fight for another day, that'll be worth it.
Cool. Okay, so it's going to be on all these different aspects, moving around, step relatives, addiction, all these crazy things. And eventually, you know, you're going to meet that person that's going to say, hey, your book was what I needed.
Yeah.
What's that going to be like?
I hadn't really thought about it until this moment, but I think the day that that comes, it's going to be the most empowering moment of my life.
Why?
I think because the majority of my childhood I was made to feel like I was nothing. Like no matter what I did, it was never good enough. That I was kind of just a burden to everyone that I came in contact with. And so being able to go from having that mindset and perspective to actually feeling like me as who I am was able to positively influence someone,
Right.
make it all worthwhile.
Crazy. Well, and I think a lot of people who listen to this, I mean, guys, the thing is, it's like the reality of our life is that it's like we go through so much junk. And it's like the fact that it's like it's not more commonly, I think, talked about even, and that it's like, and there's a lot of support groups out there now. I mean, people are really starting to start this discussion, which is what we need. But it's like, it is just crazy to me that it's like, how many people every day and into their 20s, their 30s, and on are still feeling like they're just a burden.
Yeah.
To everyone around them. They're not good enough. They just don't know how to make the right decisions, or even if they do, it's not as great as someone else's decision, and so obviously it's just not good enough.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I think the thing that has changed for me in the past 5 years is who I choose to surround myself with.
Are you like black and white? I'm not going to hang out with certain people?
Not necessarily black and white, but if I am in interaction with someone and I realize that they are very negatively minded,
Yeah.
and just all that they talk about is negative, 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 I'm going to be like, respectively, I love you, but I'm going to separate myself because mentally I cannot have that toxicity in my life.
Why?
Just knowing where I came from,
Yes.
hitting rock bottom, and knowing that all it takes is words to change your perspective on who you are as an individual and your self-worth, and taking me back to it. I don't want to ever have that feeling again. And especially being in the position that I'm in now, working for Chris Crone and being in the ecosphere that I am,
Right.
I realize now that I'm not too nice. I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be.
Right.
The people in high school that I was surrounding myself with said that I was too nice because they weren't the right crowd for me. And at the time, I was just so entranced with making sure that people liked me and being accepted that I was willing to do whatever it took to be accepted.
Well, and guys, yeah, I mean, how common is this? I mean, let's be real. It's like everybody, I mean, me my entire life. So I mean, you guys have heard my story. Beginning of this season, number 2, King Obsession, right? Started out with me being like, okay, I had a girlfriend in high school, left me, and I just really felt like I wasn't enough to keep her around. And I was like, okay, well, I wonder how many guys have ever felt that. Thing was, it was like, I had so many other opportunities, and I chose just to block them out because of one negative one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, how many people are growing up with step relatives, things like that, or maybe even just a parent that's really busy. And it's like, for some reason, you rationalize very logically that you're not enough for their attention, or you're not enough for their praise, you're not enough for their love. And so where do you turn? You need a community.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the world ever since the beginning of time. I mean, we've always had these groups, or, gangs. I mean, gang mentality comes in all the time because people want a support group. They want someone they can actually trust.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they grew up without this trust, without this, validation that, man, it takes such little validation to really help somebody move forward. And people get like 0. It's ridiculous.
It really is.
And we can be that person. Murph's a great example.
Easily. Yeah. So, kind of going on that tangent there. With trying to just be accepted by everyone.
Yeah.
And the lack of love that I felt at home, I felt that if I just got into a relationship, then my entire life was going to be fixed.
I think a lot of people think that.
Yeah. And the thing that I've realized with working for Chris is pretty much people's philosophies come from an idea off of an experience, and they couple it with an emotion.
Right.
And then you tie those together, and then anytime the emotion comes up, you're like, oh, that's where that idea came from. So that now every time I feel this emotion, it's going to be coupled with this negative idea. And I think that's where breakthrough is so powerful, because you're breaking the pattern of having that idea, the negative idea that's coupled with that emotion, and you're changing the idea from negative to positive and reworking the way that those are connected.
For those of you that don't know, Breakthrough is Chris Cron's foundation.
Yeah.
Okay. So, with people at home, they want to learn about Breakthrough, they should obviously go look it up.
Yes.
You'll kind of get the idea. But if they want to get started today with number 1, I think you guys got to learn how to first off just notice who you're surrounding yourselves with.
Yes.
Because I love that, Murph used the word entranced. It's like you're just stuck in that, totally different world of, hey, I have this huge lack of love in my life, and I need attention. I need someone to just notice me. Because again, suicide rates are crazy now, and it's like, and these crazy new standards that everybody has with social media and everything, teens are melting in it, and you're sitting here going, they just need some love. They need someone to recognize them. And I think it's so funny because as soon as you start giving it, you start getting it.
Yeah.
I loved the same thing. I in high school, my favorite time was that 5 minutes between classes.
Yeah.
Because I love going around and just telling people, like, I think you're freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And it made my freaking day. And everybody who saw me doing it was just like, dude, you made my day. You are awesome. And it was like, I started getting all this love that I needed. And I was like, oh my gosh. If everybody was just giving it, everybody would be getting it.
Yeah.
But instead, we kind of sit here in our sulking selves, especially moody teenagers. Yeah. Like, we just, that's how we are. But that's it. We just sit there and we think, what about me?
Mm-hmm.
What about me? What about me? You're thinking about you, and you're the one who's beating you down.
Yeah.
Build yourself up, guys. You might even get a compliment from somebody that they say, hey, you're great. But because you're telling yourself every day and planting that seed that you're not enough, you won't even accept it. Where does that leave you? It leaves you in this bottomless pit where you're just like, you're putting down a ladder, but I'm not going to take it up because I love being a victim. It gives reason to my, lifestyle or something, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
It gets you stuck there.
It really does. And that makes me think of, I don't know, have you heard the story of the guy who's in the middle of the ocean and he prays to God and he's like, God, please save me?
No, but I like where it's going.
Okay.
I think everybody would.
Yeah.
If you're stuck in the middle of the ocean, you're praying.
Yeah, so pretty much he's in the middle of the ocean, he's going on some trip, something. His boat ends up capsizing and he's stuck in the middle of the ocean. He's praying to God, God, please save me. Like, I don't want to die this way. And then a couple hours later, a boat comes by and stops. Hey, are you okay? Do you need some help? Like, you're in the middle of the ocean. I can take you to shore. And he's like, no, I'm okay. God's going to help.
No.
So the ship leaves. And then he's still just swimming in the middle of the ocean. He's like, God, please save me. Send me a sign, something. And a day and a half later, another boat comes. Do you need help? We can take you to shore.
Right.
He's like, no, I'm okay. My God's going to save me. I trust him. A week later, Another ship comes. Do you need help? Like, we can take you to shore. You don't look like you're doing so great. He's like, no, my God is going to save me. Well, long story short, he ends up dying because he didn't accept the help that he was given. He gets to heaven and he's like, God, why didn't you help me?
Right.
I was praying for you day and night to save my life. And he's like, why do you think I sent you 3 boats, idiot? And it's pretty much just, the signs are there.
Yeah.
The help is there that you're asking for. You just have to be open and willing to accept it.
That's huge. It's like people want to stay in the storm a little bit.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I realized that for the last 20 years, I was playing the victim and using that 7-year span of my early teenage years as a reason to be what I thought was unworthy of love.
Right.
Unworthy of quality friendships. Unworthy of being able to make a difference in the world because of the way that I felt I was perceived by the people who were truly supposed to love me the most. And it wasn't until I stopped in the middle of the storm, turned around and started walking the other direction that I started to actually see the daylight.
This is a revealing thing. It's like you go through the storm, you go back through it, and it's like you're running into the same storm you were in, but now you're looking at it from the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. So you took the time, go back through it, and this wasn't until pretty recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what was kind of because I think a lot of people that want to stay in the storm, they want to stay there. But at the same time, they really want to get out.
Yeah. I think you have to get to the point where you're almost basically at rock bottom.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty much where I got to when I first moved out here. Was I no longer had a job. My girlfriend that I had before I moved out here left me, and I was just like, woe is me, playing the victim card up to the T. And I finally got to the point where I was like, how long am I gonna live in this pity fest and continue to just go down the road and not actually move in any direction, whether it be positive or negative? And then I just woke up one morning and I was like, you know what, I'm tired of living this meaningless life and putting all the blame on the rest of the world. Now it is time to actually take ownership of my decisions, my actions, and actually take the direction that I want to go and make my life my life.
Yeah. That is so crazy. Because starting from a really young age, you were kind of like, this is just happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a totally huge mindset shift when you start going, I'm going to choose. And by choosing and not being the victim, that doesn't mean that it's the world that's happening to me. It means it's me happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm deciding. I'm going to choose today what I do. And I'm going to accept the results.
Yeah.
But guys, how empowering is that? Suddenly you're in charge.
Oh, it's massive. One of the biggest quotes that really sticks with me to this day was Grant Cardone. And he was pretty much just saying, you can either have the choice to be a victim in the world, or you can have the choice to take everything as happening because of you. And the perfect example that he uses is, majority of the time, if someone gets rear-ended, it's the other person's fault.
Sure.
And he's like, everyone naturally is going to be like, dang it, why was that person not paying attention?
Mm-hmm.
But he takes it a step deeper and he's like, no, what did you do to put yourself in that situation at that exact moment to be in the universe where that car rear-ends you?
You guys got to understand, like, this is from 10X Rule.
Yeah.
I got to point out, this is pretty sweet because, first off, Murph's awesome. He's been hanging around these absolute giants. He's learning from Grant Cardone, who, my top 3 favorite books, I always, at least for business, I always throw these out there. Number 1 is Alex Hormozy, $100 million offers. But number 2 is 10X Rule, Grant Cardone. And number 3 is Limitless with Chris Crone.
Yeah.
And it's like, this guy's living, eating, breathing this stuff. It's like, he's headed places. I love it. So my point being, though, he takes it to the most extreme level you could possibly take it.
Mm-hmm.
Where he doesn't just say, hey, like, why did that, why were you in the car getting crashed? It's like, why weren't you, already crushing it so much that you already had the clients and you didn't need to drive to someone else?
Yeah.
Or like that, that your clients coming to you because you're so important. Or like,
yeah,
why weren't you taking this even further? And it's like, as soon as you get that crazy about taking your, extreme accountability, I mean, that's the next level. And the thing is, you can get out of this that Grant Cardone is obsessed about that.
Yeah. Be obsessed or be average.
He doesn't want to be average above all, but more than that, it's like he doesn't want to like live a life where he puts anything up to chance. Anything. And you're all sitting here going, I don't think it's possible to control 100% of your outcomes. And he's going, I'm going to figure out a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
Crazy. Well, and I think it's so crazy that, guys, point this out. Let me just throw this out there for my obsession side. Murph pointed out that he's been through all this stuff. Crazy years of, all the things that you can probably imagine happening to you, that happen to most of you. And yet, we're talking about how's it going to feel when you meet that one person and you have that one moment where they tell you, hey, you changed my life. You were the guy. Because of the stuff you went through, I found my way out. And he's talking about how that's going to be just the most fulfilling moment ever. That's obsession. He doesn't just want it. It's not like he's like, yeah, I'd like that. He's like, that moment is literally what he's putting in work every day for. He puts in hours and hours and hours of not just writing out this book, but more than that, like dissecting his own life, learning from his experiences so that he can actually, when that moment comes that he does release the book, he can say, I know I'm sending this off just how it's supposed to be. And in a way that he's going to go, this might not make me look the best even. This is going to be me showing all the scars, taking off his shirt, showing his battle wounds, and they're pretty ugly. But at the same time, someone else on that battlefield is going to see it and they're going to go, that looks like me.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that just one moment, one single moment, and it could be hundreds of moments. I honestly believe there's going to be thousands of people impacted by this book. There's going to be so many people that are going to read it and they're going to go, wow, this is real life. And I'm so glad that this is here because it helps me not feel alone. I know now that there's other people out there that are going through the same things I'm going through. Maybe not even the exact same, but close enough that I know that I'm part of a community. I'm part of a brotherhood, a human family that I can get out of here. And it's like the fact that he's willing to chase down all this work, all this hardship, even if it only changes one person's life. And frankly, I'd even bet you that even if it didn't change one life, he'd still be chasing it just on the whim that it could.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's obsession. He's so deep into it. It's in his core. It's something that it's like, come day or night, like it's on his mind. Everything he does, he runs through that lens now. Because he's figured out where he's going and who he is. Thoughts?
Yeah. My mind's just blown.
Good.
But yes, all of it, yes. And one of the things that really has been resonating with me a lot is, if there's one piece of advice that I can give you is just be yourself.
Yeah.
Like every morning I journal and I write my goals down, and one of the things that I write in my journal every morning is a series of affirmations. And one of them is, I attract the relationships that are 100% perfect for me, and I am open to those.
Nice. That is so powerful. You guys don't get that.
I think that's the biggest point, is 100% perfect for me, and I'm open to it.
Right.
Because you can attract the right people, the right relationships into your life every single day, but if you are not open and willing to receive it, it's just like the guy in the middle of the ocean. He wasn't open to receiving God's gift of a ship to save his life.
Right.
If you're not open to it, it doesn't matter how many gifts or relationships come your way.
Isn't that just crazy? There's this video. So I have a daily folder on Instagram. I've had like 4 of them, but I keep refining it. And basically the point of it is that I'll run into these things, these clips that I'm like, okay, this is something very important, a very important lesson or fact or whatever that I want to internalize as a person. To internalize a message, you really don't do it in one day or 1 minute. And so I watch it every morning until I feel like I've internalized it. And then I basically will just refine my list and let it go. But one of them is this lady where she's like, I'm going to teach you something very interesting about consciousness. And she's like, for some of you won't get it yet, but for some of you, this will be a total game changer. And she's like, if somebody, is so firm in their belief that maybe something doesn't exist or that, it can't, or maybe something already does exist there, something, whatever their belief is, if they are so set on it, that it's just absolute truth for them, it does not matter how much evidence, how much proof you parade in front of them, you cannot convince that person. And so you have to deal directly with the resistance first before there will be any progress. And so in your own life, if you find yourself where you're like, I keep finding these relationships, but then, they just don't work out, recognize you might be sabotaging your own self.
Yeah.
And more than that, you need to find that block and fix it. And a lot of times it takes finding a person to help you, helping, like Chris Crone doing Breakthrough. You got to find someone who can help you get past that until you learn how to do it for yourself.
One piece of advice that I'll give on that notion as well is, I know I mentioned The Untethered Soul earlier.
Love it.
And I would highly recommend reading that book. But one of the things that it talks about is looking at yourself as 2 different entities, right? You have your inner voice in your head as one person, and then your actual physical self as another person. The voice that's in your head talking to yourself is usually the one that's beating you up majority of the time.
Yeah.
So think of it as 2 different entities, and the voice in your head is one of your friends, like us having a conversation right now. If I was to call you a piece of crap and you're not good at anything, how long would we be friends for?
Not very long.
Exactly.
Right.
And so that's the thing that it was saying is, if you won't allow other people to talk to you like that, why is it that the person and the voice that you're with 24/7, you allow to speak to you however it so chooses to do so, whether it be degrading or uplifting?
Just crazy.
It is. And that single thought process and kind of conscious realization has totally changed my life.
Yeah.
Because the moment that I start talking to myself negatively, I'm like, if this was someone else, how long would they be around? Not very long. Stop it right now. Change your mindset and perspective on the way that you're going about things. Start lifting yourself up instead of beating yourself down, because that's exactly how I interact with everyone else. Lift them up.
Well, guys, I cannot imagine explaining this to somebody who can't get this yet, but it's just such a difference when you go from being in all these spots of lack and scarcity to going to a new relationship of abundance, or somebody who actually really cares about you, somebody who speaks to you positively and encourages you. It feels uncomfortable for some people because they haven't had it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a spot where you almost want to push it away, or you're gonna actually there's too many examples, but it's there's people who will actually almost try to fight it. They'll bully it away, be like, hey, don't talk to me like that, and it's
Yeah.
That's all you've been begging for years, and you're pushing it away now, and it's you really got to get self-aware here.
Oh, yes. Chris always says all the time that it takes 5 months to make something a part of who you are.
Cool.
So if you're not comfortable with talking to yourself in a positive light, that first month it's going to be uncomfortable. Second month, probably still going to be pretty uncomfortable, but it's going to be more acceptable. By the third month, going to be a little easy. Going to start to actually become a part of your everyday life.
Right.
Month 4, you're like, dang, I got this. This is going to be a cakewalk. And then by month 5, it's just a part of who you are.
Well, and the thing is, it's guys, honestly, you got to recognize, you're with those 2 parts, your mental side and your physical side, it's you are in charge.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of you try and give up the power. And it's literally through just your words and everything else, you can take control of that side of you and just decide today, I'm a new person. Like, and it takes a million decisions saying that over and over and over again. But it's like, the point is, don't feel like what Murph is saying is like impossible for you. Because seriously, like, if you want to speak to yourself positively, it may seem foreign. You might even have to, like, for some people, I've heard some great ways that when they want to deal with the negative voice, they actually name it. And they'll name it after somebody that they would never, ever take advice from.
Charlie,
yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. It's like, exactly. And it's like, that's the point. It's just like, there's a person that you're just like, ugh. And when you name that voice in your head after that bad person, it's like, you're never going to listen to that thing again. Mm-hmm. And that's one moment when you can let that voice die and let a new one start. A fresh start. Let the new voice come in. And let that voice defend you against that other voice. Let him build you up. Let him tell you exactly who you're going to be 10 times bigger than you ever could. One of the coolest things, I think I might have mentioned this in another podcast, but one of the biggest things that, amazingly, I didn't have a mentor tell me this. So this is kind of a Mikey original. Hold on to your socks. But my big thing is, if you go talk to your future self and you have conversations with them, I remember when I was raising my first like $75,000 for a business, and I was like freaking out, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. And then I decided, I was like, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to have a talk with my future self. And seriously, guys, like, he's a beast. Like, I don't mean to like talk myself up, but holy goodness, being in his presence, like, you feel powerful. And I was just sitting there like, this guy. And I remember talking with him and being like, I don't really know. I like this 75,000, like, I just don't know if I'm going to get it. And he was just like, oh, bro, like, like, that's, I get that it's scary, but like, just know that like in the future, like, we raise billions of dollars, man. Like, this is just your first tiptoe. You're just stepping your, you're putting your toe in the water, and it's like, you get it, don't worry.
Giving me chills just thinking about it. Oh my
I'm telling you, it's like, as soon as he was just like, you get it, like, don't even worry about it. I went in so confident after that, got the money. I've raised more, way more than that now. And it's like, and it's just amazing. What would your future self be saying to you?
Go out there and crush it.
Go out there and crush it.
This is, like you said, just tiptoe in the water. This is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the world is your oyster to make it whatever you want it to be.
Well, and seriously, I can't imagine that Murph's future self, first off, he's swole. This guy's jacked. Oh my gosh, he's like 260.
Oh,
he's a big guy, and he's got the beard, and he's just like, he's a totally different you.
Yeah.
He was like an evolution. He's just huge. And
and I'm glad that you went down this route, because I actually talk to myself every morning in my mind palace.
In my mind palace. How many of you know what a mind palace is? Let's talk about that.
220 actually, not 260.
220. He's shredded.
Yes, straight yet.
Well, and he's going to tell him, he's going to be like, dude, your impact is going to be larger than you could really ever imagine.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. So, I mean, I might as well just tell you.
Let's hear it.
Going along the addiction line, like a baseball player my entire life, dipped for countless years, and every morning I'll go into my mind palace, and the first room that I go into is my health room. And that's where I see my 220-pound, just 7% body fat, jack self. And every morning he's like, you already know what you need to do.
Yeah.
You need to just stop being a baby. Take the repercussion of your poor decisions the last 15 years and just get over it.
Right.
Just get over it. You already know what you need to do. Just do it. You are your biggest arch nemesis right now at this point in time, and until you take the steps that you know you need to take, you're not going to reach the people and potential that you know you're capable of doing.
I think it's so crazy, guys. It's so true, though. Like, seriously, I'm not even kidding. Like, guys, sit down right now. Let's just take a sec. Like, this podcast could be the one that changes your life. So, like, I'm glad you're still listening. But it's like, think about this. Just really quick. Just think and be like, is Murph right? If you go and sit down and you get into your mind palace, right? I hope it's gorgeous. You go and you say, I have this problem, this big stumbling block, right? They used to call it, what was the word for it? It was like, basically the image is like some guy and he's got all, like the little chain and ball, like the prisoner. And it's like, there's always just the one big thing. Your one big thing. And if you can get rid of that one big thing, my goodness, your life will just take off. You will accelerate so fast. Like, you've gotten strong from carrying a lot of weight. So first off, identify your one big thing. But more than that, sit down and you tell me that when you really ask yourself honestly, and you got to want to know, but if you want to know, ask yourself, what do I need to do to actually get out of here? What do I need to do to stop? Like Murph just said, he's like, you already know what to do. You know what's next. You know what the next step is. You know what you could do. I mean, our world's crazy. There's so many things. I mean, you get into the wrong crowd. You get into the drugs, the porn, the whatever, and it's like depression. I think can be a total addiction too. Mm-hmm. But it's just like, honestly, like with depression, it's like you probably know, hey, I should probably get active.
Yeah.
I mean, go do some freaking push-ups. Go get a six-pack.
Yeah. Get active. Off of social media.
Yeah.
Stop comparing yourself to other people.
You get stuck on porn. It's like, hey, try getting up early.
Yeah.
Go to bed early. Get off your freaking phone. Like,
yeah.
Go work out. Take some ice showers. Get that norepinephrine spike.
Mm.
Like, you are going to become such a beast. It's like, just get rid of that one big thing. If it's drugs, delete the phone number. I don't care who your guy is. Like, I mean, freaking like, get healthy. Get so obsessed with the other side of you that other side doesn't even look like good. Like, when you guys really, and I think I love this. The thing is, it's like, I think it is the biggest, coolest, and it sounds awful, but it's like the coolest trial that you can really go through in this life isn't feeling like you're not enough.
Yeah. For
something, for love, for somebody else, for something. Because the thing is, eventually you have to learn to love yourself, one, which that can take some guts. That can be hard.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like once you actually do, then you start to realize you're like, oh shiz, I listen to Mikey's podcast and I know that I'm limitless.
Yeah. Like
seriously, I can step into it and it's like, well, what would my life look like if it was perfect? And that's the mind palace thing. That's where Murph goes every day.
Yeah.
He goes and he sees it.
So do you mind if I give
Yeah.
some context to the Mind Palace?
Cannot wait.
So envision the place that you wish that you could go. Whether it's someplace you've already been or someplace that is like your dream fantasy vacation.
Somewhere you feel really good, accepted.
Yeah, so I'll give you my Mind Palace.
Okay.
It is in the Bahamas.
Excellent.
And every morning when I start in my Mind Palace, I'm on the right side of my bed. And I wake up and I look over and my alarm clock says 6:47. I roll off the edge of the bed, stand up, look to the left across my bed, and there is nothing but vast ocean.
Wow.
Like the glass is just a sliding door that is the entire wall. And I press a button and it just slides open. And then I go and walk out and I look over to the right and there's a huge mountain with nothing but beautiful trees, waterfall. It's pretty much perfect.
Yeah.
I can feel the sand in between my toes. I can feel the mist from the waterfall on my face.
Yeah.
I go and I walk over, and this is really where my true Mind Palace is. And it's a house that is built into the side of the mountain.
Cool.
There's a wraparound porch. It's like rustic maroon color. It has 4 steps. The first step is half buried in the sand. So I step up, walk to the left. My door is to the right, and it's rustic itself. Yeah. It's like one of those canopy, I don't know, like rounded doorways.
Yeah.
Where it has the half moon little window up at the top.
Can you guys see it?
It has like the brass handle where you just click the little button up top to open the door. Walk in. First room to the left is my health room.
Nice.
And that's where I see my 220-pound self. And he tells me every single day, you know what you need to do to help get yourself to that next level. You're able to see the entirety of the room. Like it can be a gym. It can be an entire world in itself.
Right.
Anything that is going to help you get to your healthiest and best self. Then I leave that room and I go to the next room, take a slight little left, and it's the door on the right, and that's my wealth room.
Nice.
I open that door, and majority of the time, it's my current manager, Marianne, sitting at the table, much like this one. And I just walk in, and she's like, you know, making money is fun and easy for you. I mean, look at this. And there's a purple and turquoise Lamborghini. And I go and lift the door open, and I press the start button, and it just boom.
Nice.
And I feel the rumble of the engine. And then I get out, and I go and I write myself a $100,000 check. And I'm like, see,
That was
making
easy.
money, fun and easy. I leave that room and I go to the next one, and that's my relationship room. And right now I'm still continuously working on the relationship that I have with myself. So I open the door and I see myself in there. And the first thing that I say to myself is, I freaking love you, dude. You're
Freaking
amazing.
love you, dude.
You are amazing. And I just feel the chills and tingles of the love that I give to everyone else, and giving it to myself is one of the most amazing feelings that you can ultimately have in this life. And then I leave that room and I go out the back door to the back side of the house, and out in the back is Tom Brady. And then Tom Brady throws me like 2 or 3 passes, and I catch him, and then I do some moves, and then I'm like, all right, now I'm ready to start the day. And that is my mind palace.
Cool. Guys, you see how much detail went into that?
Yeah.
He knows what the handle on a door looks like.
The more detail you can give yourself, the more real it's going to be. Your mind doesn't have the ability to tell the difference between reality and what you tell it.
Yeah, your subconscious, guys. A lot of people don't know how to really tap into their subconscious, but I think that's one of the coolest things that we talk about on these podcasts is like, you really, really got to you got to throw it in there. Because the thing is, again, your conscious mind is your captain. Unconscious mind is the crew. Like, they will get the work done when you're not even looking. And it sounds like hocus pocus to a lot of people. It really does. It sounded like that to me at the beginning. But it's like, the point is, one of the coolest ways to really connect with your subconscious and, frankly, just point you in a good direction, go and visualize. I have it on my morning routine that it's just, I take 1 minute to visualize. It's usually my future home. I'm going to build a castle. Anyway, it's sick. It's good. And there's a good reason for it. Some of you think I'm crazy, but my point was this. This is, I guess it's not my mind palace, but my mind palace is a little different than that. But with the castle, this is my big, I have 2 things that I actually want in this life besides like the stuff that'll just come from regular money. Number 1 is I want to get married in Italy. Which I realized if the girl really just hates the idea, whatever. But I'd love to get married in the LDS District has a temple in Rome. I lived there for a bit, and it's like, my goodness, that's where I'd love to get married. And number 2 is I want to build this castle, because the thing was, I realized even if I make billions, I'm not really going to be able to change the world with that.
No,
I think
when you make billions.
when I make billions,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to change the world with that. And so I realized, I was like, oh, I started watching Ed Milet and Bradley and all these other guys, and I kept seeing these Park City jackets, and I was like, oh, they all go to Park City. And I was like, I know what I'll do. I'll build the biggest mansion in Park City, and then I'll invite them to my house. Of course they'll want to come. And then I was like, no, I remember Grant Cardone rented out a mansion for himself for like 10 grand a night or something like that. And I was like, these guys are so rich, you can't get their time.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I was like, wait, someone could always build a bigger mansion. So I'm going to build a castle. And I was like, I'm going to build a castle, and I'm going to make it just like the coolest experience. I want it to be on the slopes. I want it to be seen from the slopes. And I want everybody to call it the Park City Castle. And more than that, I want to make a huge Netflix documentary about it. I want it to be like #1 property, maybe in America. But like, I want this thing to be a spot where all these billionaires and regular people, and I don't mean regular as in like poor, but like just, normal life people like me. Point being, I want it to be a place where I can invite these billionaires where they'll be like, yeah, of course. Oh my gosh, what an experience. I'd love to come. And I can make relationships with them by be like, hey, yeah, come stay for a week. We'd love to get to know you. Make relationships with these people so that as they're making these power moves, I can go, hey, there's these great ways we'd love to change the world. And now that we've had an opportunity to create a relationship, let's do it together.
Yeah.
And it's like, the thing is, I would never, ever, ever have thought that big had I not actually participated in things like creating my own mind palace.
Yeah.
Guys, it changes it. And I love, guys, recognize the 3 rooms. Think if you remember what they were.
Health, wealth, and relationships.
Why? Because everything comes back to that. You see a lot of billionaires, that's what their businesses are focused on. Mm-hmm. If you don't have your health, what do you have? You're dying. Yeah. Wealth creates a lot of opportunities, but it doesn't mean much if your relationships are suffering. If you can create all 3, though, it's like you have all the opportunity and all the love and all the purpose you could ever find. So it is so amazing that Murph every morning or whatever, I mean, every time he goes to his mind palace, he's refocusing his life on the basics. Very powerful basics. Crazy, Murph. Okay, so what's next?
I think that's the question. It's
okay.
The question that everyone asks, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is next is just continuing down the road to make sure that everyone feels empowered in their own right.
Whoa. Empowered in their own right. Because everybody's individual and everybody's got their own destiny, their own special gifts, their own special trials.
Yep.
Okay.
I had been thinking about it for the past couple of days, and then before I got here, I told myself, you know what? I'm just going to completely clear my mind in whatever comes to me in the moment.
Good.
It's going to be what it is. Empowering people to be their best self. Because at the end of the day, if you are not empowered to be who you are and amplify the gifts that you were given by God, then what are you doing?
Right. Well, and guys, seriously, that's the reason I was so excited to get Murph on here, because the thing is, it's like the fact that he's on a mission, like the point of this podcast is we want to help people. And like I've heard so many, like just so many wonderful stories where a podcast happened to reach a person at a right time and it saved their life in one way or another. And seriously, like lives have been saved by just things like this. And it's like, if we can make any difference in the world, like we want to make it. And it's like to have somebody on here that he's already actively pursuing that and has actually experienced that side of life that he can actually share and connect with people. It's like, this is a guy you got to follow. Remember, links are below. Like, go follow this guy. Follow his journey. See what he's up to. He's already hanging out with billionaires. I mean, that's sweet.
It is pretty awesome. And I'll leave you with one additional gold nugget.
Cool.
Whatever you're doing, whatever venture you're working on, it's better launched than perfect. Just think about that for a second. It's better launched than perfect.
I love that. So I want to see if that might be answering my question, but Murph, every time I end one of these podcasts, I try to remember to ask my favorite question, which is, if everybody in the world was going to see this, what's the message that you'd want them to hear?
Yes, that would be it.
That's it.
It's better launched than perfect. And really the thing that I think about when it comes to that message is there are a lot of instances in my life where I wanted to do something and I wanted to take some kind of action, but I was like, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
It's not perfect yet.
People will sit on things forever for that reason.
Yes. And one of the biggest things that I learned from our company's CEO is launch it, and then regardless of if it is perfect, you're always going to be iterating.
Yeah.
To stay with the market, with the world in its ever-evolving ways, you're always going to be changing something. So why wait until it's perfect when you can launch it now and it's going to be changed regardless?
100%. Guys, this is just so, I mean, me being an entrepreneur, it's like, I can't tell you how many companies we started as one thing and it ended up being something completely different. And I don't think there's ever been one that stayed the same. Like, not really. No. I mean, like you said, everything's changing, and same thing with your life. If you want to be something new, launch it. Don't sit on it till it's perfect.
Now is your moment.
Right now.
You can be and do whatever you want to do. Make the decision right now. You want to be a writer? Start writing. You want to be a public speaker? Go take that first step to get on a stage. Whether it be in front of 2 people or 100 people. Just make that first step.
Well, and if you want to be somebody who loves himself too.
Yeah.
Like
that
internal stuff, like, guys, you might want to get up on that stage but first you're like, I gotta really actually believe in me. Like, sometimes just getting up on the stage will help you believe in you.
Mm-hmm.
Recognize that sometimes taking the action that you think you're not ready for is actually the way that you'll be ready. And if we're being real, like, you're never really, if you're ready, it means you probably waited too long.
Way too long.
You gotta just be ready enough to get to the next step. And that's where, it's the journey.
Yeah.
That's
where
it.
greatness is created. Getting out of your comfort zone.
Guys, that's it. What a freaking podcast. Guys, this is just, anyway, I can't get over this. We're going to have Murph back. I don't know when. We'll see. But it's like probably when he's rich and changing lives. And we'll get to hear how it went with the book. I can't wait till the book comes out. Do we have a timeline?
Not officially yet.
Good. I like a little mystery.
Yeah. Well, we'll say by my birthday.
All right. Hey, sooner than later.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, go follow him on Instagram. Go, just check out his journey. Connect with him. If you want him on your podcast, DM him. He's a pretty nice guy. He's here locally, Central Utah. Great guy, Murph, dude. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Mikey. Appreciate it.